is something beautiful about celebration in sport. A fist bump, a roar, a bat raised in the sky. It is not just emotion. It is release, it is theater, it is identity. But in cricket, that theater comes with boundaries. And this week, those boundaries have become a talking point again because of one name, Sanju Samson. Rumors of review, talk of ICC Code of Conduct, whispers of possible action. But before we even discuss Sanju's case, we need to step back because this is not new. This tension between freedom of expression and regulation has been shaping modern cricket for decades. The International Cricket Council, ICC, introduced structured code of conduct regulations to preserve what cricket calls the spirit of the game. On paper, it makes sense. Cricket historically positions itself as respect-driven, gentlemanly, controlled, measured. But here is the tension. Modern cricket is franchise-driven, personality-driven, social media amplified, and emotionally expressive. So when ICC penalizes excessive celebration or provocative gestures or conduct contrary to the so-called spirit of cricket, it enters a subjective gray zone. And that gray zone has produced some fascinating cases. If we go back to 2012 Australia tour, a young Kohli reacts to crowd. Why? Because the crowd was excessively abusive. He shows the middle finger, the ICC steps in, 50% match fee fine, but no suspension. Now, here is why this case matters. At that moment, Kohli was raw, emotional, confrontational. But fast forward a decade, and that same aggression becomes part of his brand identity. It feels India's cricket's competitive transformation is based on that kind of aggressive approach. And then that becomes a marketable intensity of Indian cricket and Kohli. If Kohli's case was about crowd reaction, there was another case that was about the celebration that collided physically with opposition, and that takes us to South Africa, 2018. Kagiso Rabada, premium fast bowler, celebrates a wicket intensely. There was a shoulder contact, there was proximity, there was visible aggression. He accumulates demerit points, he faces suspension, the decision is appealed and later overturned. But here is the structural difference. Rabada was not punished for just one celebration. He was punished for cumulative behavior under the demerit system. And we will talk about the demerit system and we will talk about Sanju's case. But that time there was that system and we still continue to have that system where we generally players accumulate demerit points and that leads to suspension or severe penalties. Let's talk about another case. And now this case is from England, where intense competitive cricket is the name of the game. And most of the players are expressive, and there comes the name Ben Stokes. Animated celebrations, verbal confrontations. He has been fined few times. He has received demerit points, but rarely suspended solely for celebration. Why? Because in Ashes cricket, intensity is almost cultural currency. Which raises another question. Does cricket enforce emotion differently based on context? But not all celebrations are confrontational. Some are symbolic, some are cultural, some are personal rituals. And even those have entered the grey territory. Believe it or not, Jadeja's sword celebration once attracted scrutiny. Was it aggression? Was it theatre? Or was it symbolic? He was fined, but this raises an important philosophical question. Can cultural expression be misread as provocation? And these are not isolated incidents. There are several other notable ICC disciplinary moments. Remember Shahid Afridi's ball biting incident? Then another very prominent case was Harbhajan Singh's monkey gate controversy. Another case that raised a lot of eyebrows is the sandpaper scandal by Australian cricketers, aggressive send-offs by Mitchell Johnson. So some of these cases were behavioral, some were symbolic, some were reputational, some based on some context, different outcomes, but there is a common thread. The ICC deciding where the moral boundary lies. And that brings us back to today. Because when rumors emerge about Sanju Samson's celebration being reviewed, it's not just about a gesture. It is about the long-running tension between regulation and personality, rules and individuality, and between traditions and transformations. And now, Sallav, let's zoom into this case and please take us through the specifics of Sanju's case, because this is really significant, and we know we hope that nothing will happen. There will be a minimal penalty, I think, or some kind of conversation between ICC and Sanju. Some warnings might be there, but it is significant in the sense that if you look at the history of all the disciplinary actions that we just talked about, and what might happen in future, because we now have new age cricketers, we now have flamboyant characters, and there will always be that debate between rules and regulations and freedom of expression, rules and regulations and the individuality that these cricketing characters have. So let's zoom into Sanju's case. Please take us to the case, what exactly happened, and what is the implication of that for the semi-final match and Sanju and for future.
Before going to Sanju's case, I will just give a brief recap of the ICC and India commotion happened so far as attitude on field is concerned. I think a lot of us still remember what happened during the Asia Cup. So first match when India versus Pakistan, that match happened. India didn't go for the handshake, and during the presentation ceremony, Captain Surya Kumar Yadav, he clearly mentioned that this victory is dedicated to the Indian armed forces. Later on, this thing got escalated. Pakistan wanted some intervention because the match referee, Andy Pycroft, he clearly stated to the Pakistan captain Salman Ali Agha that during the toss, you will not be the Indian counterpart is not going to handshake with you, and that is something which is out of any ICC referees, do's and don'ts. So that's what their case was, and they demanded that Andy Pycroft should be removed from the subsequent matches where Pakistan would be playing. And but that didn't happen. In the next match also, Pycroft was the referee, and then we saw something, some different things happening. So Sahibzada Farhan, just after that 50, he celebrated with that gun pose. Then after that, when India was fielding, Haris Rauf made a jet falling gesture to the crowd. And later on, when they again faced each other in the final, Bumrah, after dismissing Haris Rauf, he also made a
Same
jet
gesture.
falling same gesture. So a lot of things happened, and because of this, if you look at the implications, Sahibzada Farhan, again he gave the same reason that it is a part of since he's a Pathan, it is a part of a Pathan culture. So he's that celebration is a part of Pathan culture. So that's why he was reprimanded. Surya faced a ban. Surya faced a fine. Haris Rao faced a ban. So this was the last commotion that on-field gestures by Indian cricketers and the actions taken by ICC. And if we look at this case, so this case is falling under equipment abuse part. So equipment abuse is whenever you are, so what Sanju has done is just after hitting the winning runs, he took off his helmet and he kind of threw the helmet on the ground. Then he continued with his prayers. Now that prayers also, it has pulled off a lot of eyeballs in terms of social media. People are making reels that he has prayed in all three religious practices. So that's something which is a part of the social media trend and everything. But so far as ICC is concerned, now throwing a helmet is falling under equipment abuse. Now, what other actions can fall under equipment abuse, and what has fallen under equipment abuse before? Say, for example, after a batsman getting out, if the batsman is hitting the stumps, if the batsman is throwing his bat, or even if the batsman is throwing his helmet. So in this tournament only, Scotland cricketer George Munsey, he once has done an equipment abuse just after getting out. So and he has been reprimanded. So if I'm looking at the kind of cases where this type of attitude has called for a ban. If I'm looking at that extreme of an action, the incident, one thing you have mentioned, Kagiso Rabada. Kagiso Rabada had a very, commotion between a cricketer. Harmanpreet Kaur in 2023, he, after getting out, broke the stumps with her bat and also confronted the umpires with, a lot of dissent attitude. So that didn't go well, and she faced a ban of 2 matches. Now, this case is not a decent case. In this entire story, never has Sanju, had a arrogant look at any cricketer. He has not humiliated any cricketer. He has not shown any aggression towards any sports person. He has not shown any dissent to any umpire. He just threw his helmet and he just celebrated, and that was kind of a, very spontaneous emotion that he was going through, where he did not show any negative attitude towards any subject, be it a cricketer, be it an umpire. So he did not show any negative attitude. So, and his celebration was also very calm, without any aggression. He was just continuing with his prayers. So this is not a case. It can fall under equipment abuse, but it will not fall under equipment abuse plus dissent category. Now, bans can be only, or previously in from the previous cases, what I have gathered is bans can only happen when there is an equipment abuse as well as a decent portion, or maybe a very strong aggression situated with it. Otherwise, what ICC can do is ICC can call for a very, a dialogue oriented conversation, which is just as you have mentioned, minimum reprimand. But even for imposing a fine on Sanju, they need some sort of evidence that it was an action of dissent, or it was an act of aggression, which would be a little bit difficult to substantiate. So this is Sanju's case, and this is where Sanju's case is pretty different from what other cases that have happened previously, and why Sanju is not very likely to, thankfully for India, Sanju is not very likely to be banned by the ICC or even get a fine also. Yeah. I think minimum ICC can stay with a reprimand.
But let's assume, and I want to zoom out from Sanju's case a little bit and want to connect it to its implication for future generations. Let's assume hypothetically that this had resulted in a suspension, and what message does that send to the next generation? So, to a 19-year-old watching the World Cup, does it say be expressive, or does it say be careful? Because think about new age cricketers who grow up on Insta reels and franchise leagues and personal branding and emotional visibility. For them, market value is partly personality driven. And for them, these regulatory frameworks are like a penalizing kind of a structure that is obstructing that kind of expression. So let's have a debate or discussion on this. Do players then should become robotic, or does this rules and regulations protect cricket from sliding into chaos? Because there is that possibility also, right? So here is that interesting paradox, right? So ICC obviously wants cricket to grow globally and obviously want to include these new age flamboyant kind of cricketers who are shaped by Insta reels and whatnot, and we need stars like, say, Vaibhav and many others, then we also have to be inclusive in terms of these personalities being edgy and this personality is being expressive. So where should the line be? So that's what I want to ask, and on that we can have a brief discussion, and then we can end this episode.
So this has always existed. Now, one thing is this is not something that only the new age cricketers are doing. Showing aggression on field and having your raw emotions. See, this is a sport, so your raw emotions, your aggression, that will come out.
Dada used to be really aggressive, and many other players.
Even
Kapil Dev used to be aggressive.
yes, even
Gavaskar used to be aggressive.
I was coming to Gavaskar. There was
Yeah.
an incident where Dennis Lilly and Sunil Gavaskar they had serious physical
Yeah.
contact. So Dennis Lilly kind of pushed Sunil Gavaskar in a heat of the moment. So I am just saying is this is not something that is happening or
Yeah,
that is
that's
happening
right.
presently. This has happened. ICC can never stop aggression on field. So where actually ICC, even when a bowler is showing aggression after dismissing a batsman, there also ICC doesn't take any serious action. The umpires sometimes might be giving a warning to the cricketers if it is going beyond a certain limit. But ICC never takes an action unless there is some sort of physical contact. So when there is a physical contact between two cricketers, that means that is kind of an inviting a, a brawl. So ICC doesn't, they will never want a physical brawl happening on field because this is not a body contact game. Cricket is not a body contact game like football. Okay. So when there will be a physical contact between two yes, individuals in on field, then I think there might be some rules and regulations coming up, and there will be some repercussions to it. But for a cricketer, yes. So today every cricketer has their own way of celebrating. If you see that Mohammad Siraj, he's a very vibrant cricketer with very his way of celebrating is very hyper. He sometimes gets very hyper on field, and the way he charges to batsmen, that is sometimes that might be inviting some sort of trouble. But
throws the ball back at the batsman. Yeah.
yes, even like the way he reacted after dismissing Travis Head, that was again
that was not necessary.
that was not necessary, but yes, he did that, and
Yeah, he did that.
yeah, that invited a lot of controversy. Now these things will happen today when you. It's not about brand image. So basically, cricketers have their way of celebrating, and now the fact that everything is being captured so well by the camera, and everything can be a reel today. So the way Sanju celebrated the victory, that is also today one of the most trending reels on social media. So for over the years, if we look at players like Dhoni, Kohli, Rohit, Pandya, everyone. So even Abhishek. So Shubman Gill. So every cricketer has been a part of it. So now ICC cannot say that I will be controlling the entire this entire aggression, the showcasing of the emotion on field. With that, what that will do is that will bring the brand value of the cricketers and brand value of the sport also. So that will not be done because today it's the age of showing your raw emotions. So even like players like Rahul Dravid, so who was considered as one of the most calm people who have ever played the sport. He also during that Eden test, okay, so where Lakshman and Rahul Dravid built that partnership. If you remember, just after scoring that century, the way Rahul Dravid celebrated, because just before that there were a lot of talks whether India should be keeping Rahul Dravid in the team or not. He was not in the best of his form, and the way he celebrated that century, it was sheer aggression. That was sheer aggression. Now you cannot control these emotions. So So even the most calm individual on field will also show their emotions on field. So that thing cannot be controlled. But yeah, ICC keeps these these limits and rules and regulations, because somewhere there needs to be a full stop. Somewhere a player should be knowing that, otherwise after getting dismissed, every cricketer will be reacting in a very hyper manner. So last day only we saw that Shimron Hetmeyer, he was absolutely unhappy with the decision. But he showed his dissent, but that dissent also was very much restrained. So he was not happy. He was definitely not happy, but he did not cross the limit.
Hmm.
That control should always be there. So ICC does the exact thing. So to all the Sanju Samson fans, if I am on in a nutshell, Sanju is most likely is not going to face any ban. He will play the semi-final. So all of a sudden, this news has again raised a lot of questions whether Sanju will be facing a ban or not, because last match only he scored a brilliant 97. But yeah, this time, so there will be no ban, but uh, so we can sleep peacefully for the next 2 nights.
Yeah, yeah. I think Sanju Samson's case, whether it results in action or not, is part of a larger story, right?
Yes,
And the ongoing debate between these rules and regulations that is protecting the game from sliding into chaos, and obviously the players' freedom of expression, the liveliness that we enjoy, the banter that we enjoy in this game. And this debate will continue, and we in the meantime we will enjoy this game. uh, all of you who watched this particular episode, we really want to thank you, because it's because of you we are trying to bring in these episodes, these extra episodes, along with our uh, regular videos. We will continue to have such kind of content, and we hope we will get your support. Yeah, so if you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. And we have crossed the 1,000 subscribers mark, and we are really happy and excited,
absolutely.
and this motivates us to bring in much more interesting stories and contents. And obviously we will talk about the narratives that shape a lot of the actions that happen on field, the strategies, and whatnot. With that note, let's end this episode. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.
And thank you.